Today's headline is the First Virginians. It says, who were the first settlers of Jamestown? Captain John Smith and the others who came with him in 1607 were of course the first to establish permanently the English race and English institutions on this side of the Atlantic, but there were white settlers in Virginia on the banks of the James 80 years before them. To the energetic and adventurous Lucas Vasquez de Ayllon belongs the credit for the earliest settlement of Jamestown. This man was one of the auditors or magistrates of Santo Domingo, which within 30 years of its discovery by Columbus had already become a populous and prosperous colony. He possessed the tireless activity and the eager ambition that animated so many of his countrymen in that golden age of Spanish history. After making a voyage of exploration that took him to South Carolina, he visited Spain and got from the king, Charles V, a royal patent granting him the right to explore farther and colonize the lands to the northward. It was expressly provided at Ayllon's suggestion that the natives of the country were not to be enslaved. In June 1526, he set sail from Santo Domingo with 3 ships and a party of 600 persons, men and women, including several priests and physicians. He took with him also no less than 100 horses. The expedition was more than 5 times as large as that which Christopher Newport brought over in 1607, and much more completely fitted out. Ayllon touched the mainland, a little farther north of the place that he had formerly visited. One of his vessels was promptly wrecked on the low sandy coast, but Ayllon built a small craft, a sort of pinnace, from the trees along the shore, and having transferred men and stores from the wrecked vessel, kept on again northward. It was stipulated in his patent that he should explore carefully any passage leading westward, for the men of that day still believed that the East Indies lay not far beyond the New World, and that a water route thither must exist. Accordingly, when the mouth of the Chesapeake was reached, Ayllon turned westward and sailed slowly up the James River. Like the Englishmen who were to follow him 80 years later, he was charmed with the beauty of the country and felt that he could not hope to find a better spot for his colony. The exact spot he selected cannot today be identified, but from the descriptions of it that remain, it's clear that it was in the immediate vicinity of Jamestown, perhaps on the very island itself. The settlement was given the name of San Miguel. The work, mostly carried on by the slaves Ayllon brought with him, went forward slowly. The same malarial fevers that later thinned the ranks of the English settlers began to rage as autumn advanced. Ayllon himself fell sick and died October 18th. Before the houses were finished, winter set in, a bitter winter for that latitude, for men died of the cold. Dissensions also arose among the colonists. One party rose against the men to whom the dying Ayllon had committed his authority and imprisoned them. The Indians were so badly treated that they revenged themselves by killing several of the settlers. The slaves also rose in rebellion and set fire to the house of Gines Donsel, who had usurped the government. There was sickness, suffering, famine, death. At last came a counter-revolution and a sharp bit of fighting. Donsel and his party were defeated, and the men whom they held in confinement were released. Donsel was killed, and some of his chief supporters were executed. By this time, the enthusiasm of what colonists were left had naturally enough evaporated. With the coming of spring, they determined to abandon the ill-starred settlement of San Miguel. They attempted to take the body of Ayllon with them for interment at Santo Domingo, but the vessel that bore it was lost on the voyage, and the first settler of Virginia found his grave at the bottom of the Atlantic. Only 150 of the 600 who had left Santo Domingo returned thither alive. It is interesting to speculate on the changes that might have been wrought in American history had the Spanish settlement of Jamestown been successful and permanent. No doubt it is fortunate that it was not so, but whatever was the ill fortune of Ayllon and the unworthiness of some of his party, it's pleasant to think that the First Virginian was a brave and high-minded man, one of the honorable figures in the not always honorable story of Spanish colonization in America. This story came from the great state of West Virginia, being reported in the Shepherdstown Register of June 7, 1917. Thank you for joining us today. If you want to continue to uncover all of America's lost and forgotten history, then remember before you leave to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and remember to like and comment below. And we will see you next time on Americana Archives.